Welcome back. In this second video I'm going to show you how to select matches, how to use the Dutching calculator to work out stakes, how you would place the bets, and we'll do that with an example match that will follow right through to the end to see what the final result is. Now there's quite a lot of information here because obviously this is the meat of the method. So you will probably want to have a pen and paper to hand because you'll doubtless be jotting down information. I've made it so that all the information is available on this video, and there are one or two extra PDF files that I'll refer to throughout this video. Okay, so the first thing we want to know is how we are going to select matches, because we are not going to pick them at random. And the next slide gives the main rules for the selection technique. Now, before going through these rules, let me take you to where you are going to do the actual selection. And that is going to be on Betfair. This is the home page, and we've got the football sports highlights section selected, and you'll see there's a whole load of football matches with the home, draw and away back and lay figures shown. Now what we need to do is to scroll down to the bottom of that particular section to where it says more in play football. If you click that link, you will then be given what is a list of every in-play match on the coupon for that day. There's other days also shown, so you can go forwards, but obviously we're only normally I would only normally select matches on the day that they're being played, and I would probably make the selections 2 to 3 hours before kick-off. You can do it earlier, which is in fact what I should be doing now, because I already know which match I should be highlighting here. But I would sort of typically look 2 to 3 hours before a match is due to start. And the listing here is done in time order. So there are matches that are obviously already in play. You can see the elapsed time there. There are then matches that will be starting in a short while, and we come on to matches later on in the day. As you can see, I'm recording this at about 2:15 in the afternoon on Tuesday the 15th of September, and so we can see matches here for 3 o'clock, and a lot of these are obviously minor women's football, various overseas leagues that we're basically going to ignore anyway. But let's look at the first of the rules. Okay, so I'll go back to the slide, and what we want are the home and away match odds to be less than 1.25 apart in odds. Reason for doing that is we do not want to have teams that where one team is likely to dominate the other. That is the sort of situation where one team can go on and have a goal fest, i.e. they can demolish a weak team by 4, 5, 6 goals. That is obviously not our aim with this technique. We want the score to be relatively low. We certainly don't want a very high scoring match. So I found from experience that the best way of making the initial selection is to look at home and away match odds, the back odds, and make sure they are only about 1.25 apart. So let's go back to Betfair, and I'll look down here and we can look and see which are typical ones. You see, one that we wouldn't select would be, let me pick this one, here we are, the German under-19 women's team, Hungary under-19 women's team. German back odds are 1.03, the Hungarian women's back odds are 100, I think that's going to be a pretty one-sided game. Certainly that's what the market assumes. Now, you'll probably be saying, as I have said in the past, the market isn't always right. Quite correct. But what we are going to do is to initially assume that the market is fairly correct. Next match down, we've got 3.35 as the back odds for the home team, 2.26 as the back odds for the away team. That's within 1.25, 2.26 to 3.35 is what, 1.09. So that's within the 1.25 limit. So that, on the surface, would be a match to look at. Now, the other thing you'll note when you actually go to the matches themselves is a little box appears that gives you the amount of money that's been matched on the game. And what we do need for this system to work is for there to be high liquidity. Now, £19 being matched really isn't a lot of money, as you can imagine. I mean, it's a pathetic amount. What we are looking for are figures in the thousands. I wouldn't normally go any further looking at a match, even if it met the home and away bet difference figures, odds difference figures, if there wasn't a reasonable amount of money. So here, once again, we've got 3.3, 2.1, odds difference of 1.2, so it's just within our 1.25 criterion. But look here, there's even less money that's been matched, only £6. So I would ignore matches like that. Now, as you go down all of the selections, you probably will find that the vast majority you will just omit. And you will, in fact, with experience, start looking at particular leagues in preference to others. So leagues that I give a preference to are the English Championship and League One. Those are two leagues in particular that I give priority to. Once you reach the bottom of the list, there is then a tab to go to the next page, because obviously there's loads and loads of football matches every day. You will sometimes find that some of the figures just simply don't make sense. It's quite clear that the market hasn't fully formed. So let's look at another one here. This is Magdeburg Osnabrück. We've got back odds 2.92. The away back odds are 2.72, so that's very close. So home and away teams are very close. The matched amount is 2,800, so we're into the thousands. So if I click on that match, let's go and look at some more information. And I'll just go back to the slide so we can see the rules. So we've got home and away match odds should be less than 1.25, so the tick, we've got that. Under 2.5 goals odds must be less than 1.85 and ideally below 1.7. Note it's under 2.5, not under 3.5 that we are looking at initially. Reason for that is that we want a match that is very likely, according to the odds, to end with less than 3 goals. That means we will definitely have a score that will enable us to win the bet. If it was just 3.5, it's making it mean that we're looking at matches where it might be more likely that three goals are being scored. So looking at less than 3 goals improves our chances of picking a successful match. So if I go back to that match, the Magdeburg Osnabrück match, you'll see that the under 2.5 goals figure is 1.78. Over 2.5 goals is 2.2. So that is the right way round. If you'll remember, if I go back to the slide, the criterion is less than 1.85 and ideally below 1.7. So that's definitely less than 1.85, so that's fine. It's only slightly above 1.7, so that's okay. It would have been nicer if it was lower. But we then have another criterion to look at. So back to the slide. There must be sufficient liquidity, ideally more than 1k, in both the under 3.5 goals and correct score markets. What we want to make sure is that there is enough money in the market so that these odds change quite rapidly during a match and are pretty close, so that they're a pretty fair indication of what the market really thinks before a match starts. Now here the over under 2.5 goals market's got £27 in. The over under 3.5 goals market only has £15 matched. That is not enough. We need that to be a lot higher. Also on the correct score market, as you can see, we've only got £200 matched, which once again really isn't enough. So although this match has met the first few rules, it doesn't meet the liquidity rules. Don't be worried that you're casting away a lot of matches. I think in the early days then you're going to feel that that you're missing out on a lot of potential winners. Don't worry, as you can see there are hundreds of matches every day. I personally normally pick out, most evenings I've got at least 2 matches that I can select, which I can then bet on. That makes me a nice little profit. I make a profit just about every day. It's very rare that I have a losing bet. So don't worry about being very picky, i.e. do be make it absolutely certain that the matches meet all of the rules. That way you're going to have more successful bets, and that means more profit. So that bet hasn't met our requirements. Now I'm not going to go down this list in vast detail with every match. What I want to do is I'm going to go on to a match that I've already had a look at, and which is the match that I'm going to use for this initial presentation. So I'll go through to next. I'm looking for Cardiff v Hull championship match at 7:45, and you'll see here the back odds for the home team are 2.92, back odds for the away team are 2.76, so they're nice and close. The amount matched so far, as you'd imagine with a championship match, is over £25,000 already. So we can click on that. Now if you remember, the next rule is the under 2.5 goals market. Odds have got to be less than 1.85, I think I said. Whoops, let me go and check that. I forgot my own figure. Yeah, 1.85. And ideally below 1.7. It's 1.67, so this is ideal. Now if we look at the under 3.5 goals market a bit further down, let me just move the video box down a bit. You can see we've got over £2,000 matched on the over under 3.5 goals market. That's over the £1,000 that I said should be the ideal minimum. And if we can look at the correct score market, we've got £2,353 matched. So this match has now met all of those criteria. So we're looking at potentially a good match. So we've met condition 1, met condition 2, met condition 3. The next thing we look at is we want to look at what previous few matches have been played by both the home teams at home and the away teams away, and we're looking at how many goals they've typically scored in matches, because what we don't want is to find that there's one team that is scoring 4 goals, let's say every match, and the other team is always scoring 0. We would like both teams to in fact be scoring less than 2 goals per match. If it's typically 1 goal and 0 goals, then that's even more ideal. So let's go back to Betfair. Right at the top here you've got this head-to-head drop down. So we click on that. Here we have the last 6 matches, Cardiff Hull. If we click on the home button for Cardiff, we can see the scores at home for Cardiff for the last 6 matches. It's 2-2, 1-1, 2-3. 3 is a little bit of an outside figure. I mean, 2 is obviously most popular, but they do score 1. So 2s and 1s I'm happy with. If we go to Hull and we click on away, we see the last 6 scores for Hull, which are 0, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3. Once again, 1s are appearing most often, so once again it does look as if Hull's going to be pretty low scoring. That of course is confirmed by the go back here. It's confirmed by the let me scroll down. It's confirmed by the under 2.5 goals figure. 1.67 is pretty low, so it does suggest very strongly that the match is expected to end with less than 3 goals. And if we look at the correct score market, you see that is reflected in the correct scores. The expected, well, at the moment the odds are such that the lowest odds, which suggests that it's the highest likelihood of a score, is 1-1. The next lowest are 1-0, 0-1, which I think reflects the equality of the teams in the back and lay odds. And as you can see, as we get to higher scores, then obviously the odds are going up higher and higher, which is exactly what we want. So that is that part of the selection process. Now there is one final rule. Just go back to the rule sheet, and that is that any previous head-to-head encounters should have less than 4 goals in total per match. It's just another confirmation that when the two actual teams have met in the past, that they have scored pretty low scores. You won't always have this information with every match. Now, you also need to be aware of when the games were played. So we have the dates here. 2014 is a bit of a long time ago. It's now the 2015-16 season. There will have been team changes since then. 2013, that's even worse, even older. So these are only an indicator, but here, we've got 0-4, which is not good. But the previous matches were 1-1 and 2-2. So they are, well, Cardiff is second in the league at the moment. Hull is 6th in the league. They're pretty evenly matched. I think, if we get a score of 2-0, 2-1, I think that's going to be the most likely outcome. But on the whole, this match meets all of the criteria, which means we are now ready to look at how we will place the bets. Now, the first thing you will need to do is to get the odds sorted out for the markets that we are going to be Dutching. Now, you could use just a pen and paper and scribble figures down, which some of you will probably be quite happy to do. What I would recommend, though, is that you use an additional sheet that I've produced. It's a separate PDF file that you can download from this website, and it's a sheet that, let me move the video box across so that you can see it in full. It's a sheet that enables you to record matches, and this I recommend that you print these sheets off on your printer. You put punch holes in one side. You then have a folder where you store all of this information, because this will be a useful mine of information as your Dutching experience grows and as you become a more efficient Dutching expert. And trust me, that will happen with time. You'll start getting a better feel for matches over time, and understand the sort of actions you should take in matches. That'll be something I'll be discussing later on as to how and when you exit a match with a profit. But for now, I would develop the habit of entering the information on this sheet for every selection that you make, and it does make life a lot easier for you to refer to information. So on this sheet we've got the date of the match, time of the match, the league, space for the final score. Got a box here so you can put in what the teams are, profit/loss, hopefully you'll always be putting profits in there. We then record the home odds, the away odds and the draw odds for the team, and the under 2.5 odds. So this is so that you can recheck that you did place bets on matches that did meet the full criterion. Because of course what will happen is there will be the occasional losing bet. What you would like to do is to try to understand why did you lose, and obviously take action so that in the future you don't lose. Now down here we have, so that you don't have to remember it, we have the 4 bets that you need to place, which is under 3.5 goals, correct scores of 2-2, 1-3, 3-1. So we would write in here the under 3.5 goals odds, the 2-2 odds, the 1-3 odds and the 3-1 odds, and these are the odds that we will be taking to the Dutching calculator. So let me go back to the Betfair screen, and what I'm going to write down on my sheet that I've got in front of me here, so you'll hear me rustling and my pen moving about, are these figures. So under 3.5 goals has got odds of 1.25, so I write that down. The correct score odds for 2-2 is 19.5. The odds for 1-3 are 34. And the odds for 3-1 are 36. Okay, so I've written them down, so I've got those figures now recorded. So now what I need to do is to go to the Dutching calculator. So I'll just get that into view. Now I've got some figures here from, I think, something that I was doing last night. Let me just move the video box across so that it's properly centered and you can see everything. So first thing I shall do is I shall delete all these figures I've got here, get rid of the 2, right. Okay, so let's enter the figures that we actually need. So the under 3.5 goals figure was 1.25. The next figure, the 2-2 correct score odds was 19.5. The 1-3 correct score odds 34. And the 3-1 correct score odds 36. Now if we continue scrolling down, it's then the total that you want to stake. Now don't worry, I wouldn't, if I was you, what you want to do initially is start off slow, start off with small stakes, start off with a sum of money that if everything does go completely wrong, you're not worried about losing completely. So if you wanted to start off with £5, please feel free to do so. If you go with £5, then the profit would be 50p, which is a 10% return on investment. So it's not a huge amount, but 10% is not to be sniffed at. And what you'll see here is we've got stakes of £4.40 for the under 3.5 goals odds, and we've then got very small stakes, 28p, 16p and 15p. Now what you will doubtless be saying now is, but Chris, the minimum stake on Betfair is £2. Well, I'm going to show you how you will get round that. Now I'm not going to just use £5 here. I'm going to show you. Don't forget this bet is going to be one of my normal standard bets. I use stakes at the moment of £45. So I'm going to increase the stakes quite substantially. So as you can see, I've got £39.63 on 1.25, got £2.54 on the 2-2 score line. But even with the higher stake, I've still got stakes here for the 1-3 and the 3-1 odds that are below £2. So I'll be showing you in a second how I am going to place those bets, and it's exactly the same technique if you're going to be placing stakes down at 20, 30, 40 pence, whatever. So I'll just pause the video for a short time whilst I write these stakes down, because it'll save me having to keep referring back to this page. Okay, so I've written the figures down. So we now go back to Betfair, and where are we? Got to find it. There we go. Okay. Now I'll just have to move the video box up so that you can see exactly what's going on. I think that should do it. Right, so my first bet is going to be for the under 3.5 goals, odds of 1.25. So I've now got that up there on my betting slip, and the stake is £39.63. So click on that and the whole amount has been matched. If there's sufficient liquidity in the marketplace, then there shouldn't be a problem in you getting that amount of money matched. You might find, if depending on when you've actually placed your bets, that all of the bet doesn't get matched. If so, then just leave it for a while until you get closer to the match starting and see if you have had the whole bet matched. I have to say I normally get the whole stake matched the minute that I put the bet into the market, even though I'm putting the bets in several hours before the match is due to start. This is one of the benefits, once again, of having high liquidity. Okay, so that's that bet placed. The next bet is the odds of 2-2, 19.5. That's a simple bet because it's a stake of £2.54. So we place that bet. That's been matched. No problems. So that's fine. Okay, the next bet is the 1-3 bet, odds of 34. Now this is where we've got the stake of £1.46. So how do we place it? Now you need to watch this carefully, and it's something that you need to practice. You must learn how to place stakes less than £2. It's not difficult. It's something that you must be able to do when you bet on Betfair. You will find that it's quite useful in a lot of situations, because one of the questions, just as an aside, one of the questions I have been asked with regard to Dutching is why more people don't do it, because this technique that I'm showing you, this method, it's not something that I've invented. I'm merely developing what other people are doing, and you could say, well, why aren't more people doing it? Well, I think the answer is, in fact, very, very simple. I think because a lot of people don't know how to place stakes of under £2 on Betfair, because if you can't place stakes under £2, you've got a problem getting the bets on in such a way that your Dutching gives you a profit. You've either got to put in a very large stake so that your minimum bet is over £2, and most people maybe aren't prepared to risk that amount of money, or if they don't know how to place £2 bets, then they simply don't do Dutching, and I think that is why hardly anybody does it. So with these videos and my showing you how to do this, then this is placing you ahead of a lot of other people who could be Dutching and aren't. Okay, so here we go. Let's select. So what we do first of all is we click on, normally on a back bet button, as if we're going to place a stake at 1.3. Now we can't put in 1.46. I'll show you what happens if you do try and do it. 1.46. It doesn't give me the ability to actually click on place bets. Okay, so I can't do that. So what I do is, let me clear that box. What I do is what we want to do is to place a bet for £2, but we don't want the bet to be matched. Now the way to do that is we want to change the odds in the odds box from the 34 that is available in the market to a higher odds figure that is never going to be matched. So if I make that 50 and then put if I now put £2 in, you'll see the place bets figure button is now active. So I can place a bet of £2 at odds of 50. And you may be saying, how's that going to help us? Well, let's place it and see what happens. Right, so we get this box. Let's go to my bets. Okay, so we've now got the 1-3 bet, odds of 50, stake of 2, unmatched. Okay, so it's been placed into the market. What we can do is to adjust the odds and adjust the stake figures here. And what we do first of all is we adjust the stake figure. We change it from £2 to £2 plus the stake that we eventually want to get matched. And that stake for the 1-3 correct score was £1.46. So I changed £2 to £3.46. I now press update. Now you might be expecting that there's just one bet in the market, odds of 50, stake of £3.46. But that, fortunately for us, is not the way Betfair works. Betfair places bets in a queue, which is the only fair way of doing things. What you want is so say it wasn't me, but you want whoever placed the bet at odds of 50 with a stake of £2, you want them, because they placed that bet earlier, to get their bet matched before somebody who came along later with a bet also at odds of 50 with a stake of £1.46. If my stake of £1.46, which I've put in later into the market than my original stake of £2, if the £1.46 could leapfrog everybody else who has got bets ahead of me, also at odds of 50, then that would be grossly unfair. It would be queue jumping, and being British, we like queuing, and we really detest queue jumpers, don't we? So Betfair works on this system whereby there are two bets. They've split the bet into two. Now that's fortuitous for us, because what we can now do is we can say, well, I've changed my mind about the 50 odds of 50 stake £2 bet, so I can cancel that. I press the little cross button there, click on update, and it's gone. So now all I have is a bet at odds of 50, stake of £1.46. Well, I can now change the odds. So I'm going to go back to the odds that are available. 1-3, odds of 34. So I put in 34, click on update, and the bet's matched. And that is how you place bets for amounts that are less than £2. Let me do the 3-1 bet. That stake is the odds at the moment are 36. So the first thing we do is to increase the odds, put it up to 50. Could be higher, any figure you like, 7,500. So long as it's higher, that's what matters. Don't make it lower, whatever you do. Otherwise the bet will get matched and you're going to have to try and get yourself out of having a £2 stake at odds you don't want. So we put in £2 bet odds of 50. That doesn't get matched. I now alter the stake so that it is the £2 plus the stake that we want. Now for the 3-1 correct score it was £1.38, so I changed £2 to £3.38. Click on update, go to my bets, cancel the £2 bet, click on update so we get rid of it. I now change the odds back down to what is available for 3-1, which is odds of 36. Click on update, and there we are. The bets are now placed. Now the one question you might have is, well, between writing the figures down on the Dutching selection sheet, going to the Dutching calculator, working out the stakes, and coming back to Betfair, what happens if the odds have changed? If you place your bets sufficiently in advance of kick-off, that won't happen, or shouldn't happen. I won't say won't, it's very unlikely to happen. And certainly where you've got odds of in the sort of 30s, 40s, whatever, that tends to be the state of affairs. The problems can occur if you are trying to place your bets just before kick-off. That is obviously when the markets are most active, and certainly where you're dealing with the under 3.5 goals market, where you always will be having odds down at the typically 1.15, 1.3 odds level. They can jump around a bit as kickoff approaches. So I would advise placing your stakes, say at least an hour before a match starts, because if you've got stability in the odds, then of course it means you've got time to go and do the Dutching calculations and get your bets placed without any trouble. If the odds do change when you're about to place a bet and they go up, then don't worry about it, because that in fact means that let's say that I was trying to place that bet, the correct score of 1 to 3 at odds of 34. Let's say the odds had drifted up to 35 or 36. It wouldn't have mattered, because the bet would have been matched, and in fact what it would have meant is that there would have been slightly more profit made on that particular score line. It wouldn't have affected the profit outcome on the other scores, so I wouldn't go back and recalculate the staking figure. The other thing is, if the odds have dropped just a small bit and you think they might recover, let's say the 1-3 odds have gone down to 33, I would actually leave the 34 odds bet in the market if necessary, making it so that it can be matched in play, because what you will find is that certainly with the high scores, then provided a goal isn't scored in the first few minutes, those odds will start drifting upwards. So I would expect something, say at odds of 30, that are 33 before kick-off, I would expect them to go to odds of 34 quite quickly. So that is the way I would do that. But once again, this is experience that will that you will learn over time. So that's got the bets set up. That showed you how to set up this trial match. What I'm going to do now is I will be stopping the video. I will be coming back later as the match progresses, and we will see how the match goes. We'll point out there are other videos on this website which cover a whole variety of other matches, which will show the sort of range of situations that will occur in the matches that you are putting your bets on. So that's all for this part of the video. I'll just pause the video and we'll be back very shortly. Okay, the match is about to start. As you can see, I've got the live stream set up. It shows the countdown is now 0, game about to start. One other thing I should mention to you is that you've got two choices once you've set a match up. One is that you can sit and monitor the match and see how things progress. And then when goals are scored or other important events occur in the match, then you can write the details down on the Dutching selection sheet in the notes space. Once again, this can be very useful for future reference. The other thing that you can do is not sit glued to your computer monitor all the time, but if we go to the website www.flashscore.com, that's flash score singular, and you select soccer and all games, you'll see every day a list of all matches that are playing, plus a live update of how the scores are going. And if we go down and find the English Championship matches, and we're looking for Cardiff versus Hull, which is there. There's a little box on the left hand side. If you tick that, that basically sets it into My Games, which is a collection of all of the matches that you've ticked. So you might have several matches you want to have keep particular attention on. Once you've done that, if you go up to the top along here on the right, you can see My Games. It's got a little 1 in brackets, shows the number of games we've got set up. And with this setup, what will happen is that every time a goal is scored in the match, there will be an audible sound. It's actually a sort of crowd roar sound. So what you can do is to make sure that your computer loudspeaker is set up, the volume set up reasonably high, so that when a goal is scored you will be able to hear the crowd roar sound, and you'll be able to sort of go to the computer and take action and make notes about what's happened in the match. So you can see here it's now showing that 1 minute has elapsed. So let's go back to the match here. As you can see, the match has started. The odds get adjusted, so we're showing a loss on both the under 3.5 goals market and on the correct score market. And what we do now is we simply wait until something exciting happens, which is obviously usually a goal. So what I will do now is I will pause this video and I will restart it when either a goal has been scored or we reach roughly the halfway point of the first half, so that I can point out one or two things to you. So I'll pause the action now. Okay, I'm restarting the recording because the first goal has been scored at about 8 minutes. This is for Hull, so we've had a goal early on. What you will see after a goal has been scored is that the odds markets do take a while to settle down. This isn't too bad. We've now got the under 3.5 goals market back. We're now got a cash out figure of -£8.46. The correct score market does normally take longer to settle down, but even after the goal we can cash out here for £2.17. Obviously we don't want to do that at this stage, but the aim of this was to just show you how the markets react. What we now hope is that there's going to be a long period when no more goals are scored. Obviously 0-1 is one of the scores that we can accept for the under 3.5 goals success. So we'll see if the odds stay there. In fact, the odds are sort of settling down, suggesting 1-1, maybe 1-2 is going to be the score that the people betting are looking at. So that's but once you've done a few matches yourself, then you'll see what happens with the odds and how the odds react when goals are scored. So I'll pause the video again and come back once some other event has occurred. Welcome back. We've now reached half time. There's been no further goals in the match, which is exactly how we want it. So the half-time score is a 0-1. Things to note is if we were to cash out, in fact I haven't mentioned the cash out buttons. Let me give you a bit more information as to staking and how we will deal with matches. Typically I would have a stake that is between 5% and 10% of my betting bank. The £45 that I've used on this bet is about 7.5% of my current bank. The main way of, or the way that I would initially recommend that you deal with these matches is to use small stakes, use less than 7.5% of your bank or 10% or 5% of your bank. As I say, if you keep it down to about maybe £5 or £10. And what I would do is to just allow the match to run right through to the end and see what the final result is. So that means that let me explain the figures over here, because all you've seen so far are the figures, the odds that I've put into the Dutching calculator, but we have two separate markets here. So you'll see that if it's under 3.5 goals, we will make £9.41. If it's over 3.5 goals, we lose £39.63. But equally, on the correct score market, if you look at these scores that are less than 132231, i.e. the ones that we've backed, you'll see that the loss is £5.38. So if we get a score that is under 3.5 goals, let's say the score is, let's say it stays as 0-1, then we would make £9.41, but we would lose £5.38 on the correct score market. £9.41 minus £5.38 is about a £4 profit. Okay. Equally, let's say the score does go to 3-1 by the end of this match. That means that the under 3.5 goals bet is lost. So on the over 3.5 goals, which it now would be if it ends 3-1, we would be losing £39.63. But if we look at the 3-1 stake, or the winnings on that, then you'll see that we would make £42.08. So if the score ends as 3-1, we would make £42.08 on the correct score market, but lose £39.63 on the over-under 3.5 goals market. So once again, 42.08 is bigger than 39.63, so we make a profit. So that is how we can identify that a profit is being made. Now, as I say, I would recommend initially that you go right to the end of a match and just allow it to run and see how things transpire. But one of the techniques I'll be explaining in future videos, I think in the next video, are that you can decide to cash out earlier on in the game to make absolutely certain you've got a profit and that you don't put a profit at risk. It won't be as big a profit as if you run the match right to the end, but it can still be a profit nevertheless. Now, the way we would actually get out of a match is to use what are known as the cash out buttons on Betfair. And what this button does is it looks at the odds, both back and lay, and it automatically tells you how you could green up the screen, i.e. so for example here it says profit £3.43. As I move the cursor over that box, you'll see that under the 3.5 goals and over 3.5 goals headings lower down, you'll see that if we were to cash out, we would be guaranteed a payment of £3.43 if it was under 3.5 goals as the final score, and we would make £3.44 if it was over 3.5 goals. So this is known as greening up, and what it means is that we would make a profit regardless of what the result is. Now we obviously don't want to cash out at the moment, because although we could make a profit whether it's under or over 3.5 goals, we have to consider what the loss figures are under the individual scores on the correct score market. So as you can see, we've basically got £5.38 negative, which was of course the stake, the total stake that we used to place the 2-2, 3-1 and 1-3 bets. So if we made £3.43 on the over under 3.5 goals market, we'd have to take off £5.38. So that would be a loss, admittedly a small loss, but it would be a loss. Now what you some of you will already have become aware is that of course there will become a crossover point where if this match goes further, then you will see that this figure will grow. It will grow over time the longer that no goal is scored, and this figure will in fact creep above £5.38, and it will keep creeping above that. So there may come a point when we think, well, rather than have the total profit, potential profit of £4, we might be happy to take just £2 or £3 as the profit. So we'd wait until that point. We would then press the cash out button over here. There can sometimes be a cash out button on the correct score market, but it does depend on how much liquidity there is in the market. So at the moment there is no cash out available, so we just have to make sure that that figure, the cash out figure on the over under 3.5 goals market, is, let's say, £7 or £8.38, something like that. So we could do that, but I'll be explaining more about strategy with when you actually exit a match, as I say, in video 3 and in a lot of the example videos. So that's the state of affairs at the moment. I don't think there's anything else that I need to explain at this stage. The fact we've had a nice quiet first half after the goal at 8 minutes does show that this is going to be hopefully a low scoring match. What we don't want is to have a flurry of goals in the second half, but at the moment, oh, here we are, the cash out has suddenly reappeared in the correct score market, and in fact this does illustrate we would make, oops, it's gone again. That is the nature of what happens with the cash out button on the correct score market. But if you did spot that, then you will have noticed that I could have cashed out for minus £2.24, I think the figure was. So that would have been the loss regardless of any score. Now, so any one of these scores would have had a loss of minus £2.24. But if I cash out over on the under 3.5 goals market, I would get a profit of £3.17 regardless of the score. So I could have hit that, had £3.17, been guaranteed a loss of £2.24 on any score. So the profit would be £3.17 minus £2.24, which isn't a lot, but it is a profit. And I could do that obviously at this stage of the match and just not bother with the second half. Here we are, it's come back again. I'm not going to do that because obviously, first of all, it's too small a sum of money. I wouldn't take it at this stage. But I also want to run this match to the end so that you can see how you should approach your first matches when you are applying this technique to real matches. So there's just a few more minutes left before the second half starts. So once again, I'm going to pause the video and I will restart when something of interest happens. Okay, I'm just restarting the video because I want to show you what the situation is at the moment. The score is still 0-1. We're in the 76th minute, and if we look down here, if we were to now cash out on the over/under 3.5 goals market, of course the minute that I mentioned that, then the market goes into suspension, and in fact we now have another goal. Hull City has scored. We'll hear the sound in a minute from flash scores. That normally follows a bit later than the actual goal. In fact, the delay is interesting. It could mean that it's a disallowed goal. So let's see what happens. Let's go to flash scores and see if that is showing it as a goal. Yes, there we go. So that is confirmed as a goal. So that was quite useful and quite fortuitous. What I was going to show you is that if I had cashed out just before the goal was scored, then the profit would have been about £3.80. And given that the final profit we're looking for is just over £4, £4.03, staying on to the end of the match would only earn us about an extra 20 pence. So in fact, if I wasn't running this match right through to the end, then I would have cashed out at this point. That would have, losing 20p is neither here nor there. What you will notice now that the second goal has been scored is not only is Betfair not catching up with the scores, but you will also note that it takes a while for the correct score market to recover. It's not possible at this sort of stage of a match to be able to cash out. There simply are just too few people placing money into the market. So what we are left with is what the over/under 3.5 goals market enables us to cash out now. Now the interesting thing is, you see, if we were to cash out now, it's £6.25. £5.38 is what we would lose on the correct score market. So even now, we could still cash out for a profit. As I say, we're not going to. This is a good position to be in. Let me just check the flash scores market. It's still showing it as 2 goals. I'm very surprised that Betfair isn't. I'll just refresh the page. Let's just see what happens. No, they're insistent that there's only 1 goal been scored. These are the sorts of things that can happen with Betfair. Interestingly enough, oh no, it is showing it. Oh, here we go. We're suspended again. The market is suspended whenever there obviously is a goal scored, but it can be other things like when there's an injury, when a yellow card or red card is being given out. Yes, there's a foul there, so that's doubtless what the suspension is. Then takes a little while for the market to unsuspend. These are just things that you get used to as a game progresses. But as you can see, the odds hidden under the suspended sign, here we are, cash out is still £6.74. The market is still expecting this to be under 3.5 goals, which is not surprising. We've had 2 goals. We've got 1 more goal that would still keep us. Oh, here we are, is the other goal now appearing. Better late than never. One other thing I'll point out is the timing on Betfair is different to the timing shown on flash scores. There always seems to be a 2 or 3 minute gap between the two. So Betfair, for example, at the moment is showing 79 minutes as having elapsed, Flash Scores is showing that 84 minutes has elapsed. Now in fact that's 79 to 84, that's 5-minute gap. That's bigger than I've normally seen it. Obviously could explain why the goal has appeared on this timeline a lot later. So the match can be a lot further advanced than you may think that it is on the Betfair screen. So here we are, the over under 3.5 is flashed over to this side of the screen. So we could cash out now for £7.87, got £5.38, so that would be £2.50 we could make absolutely certain we're getting. I will of course be mentioning this later on in the next video, but I would point out that at this stage 0-2 we have we have at least one goal as a buffer before it looks as if we could lose. So in fact we could go 0-3, that would be fine given the time between goals. Chances of a third goal occurring quickly are unlikely. The market's suggesting that it's unlikely. It could of course go 1-2, it could go 2-2, so if Cardiff was to sort of come back we could have another 2 goals scored and we're still fine. Obviously we want to be careful and cautious that we don't want 2-3 or 3-2 being a potential score. Once that happens then obviously we've lost the bet. But given that this match is going exactly how we expected that it would, that's why the rules that I showed you on the slide are being used. We're only choosing matches where we expect the interval between goals to be quite long. Obviously we can't predict exactly when in a match goals will be scored, but what we don't want a group of goals to be scored very quickly, so the score changes quickly. What we want are, maybe one goal every 40 minutes would be nice. And this match is going according to how we expected it to. Okay, well, we've got 9 minutes of normal time to play, maybe a bit less than that. And there may be some injury time, probably will be some injury time added on, maybe 3 or 4 minutes. What I'll do is I'll pause the video again and I will come back when the match has finished. Okay, full time has now just occurred. You'll notice the timeline at the top, it's still stuck about. That whistle is from the Flash Score site. That indicates when a match has ended, but as you can see the timeline on Betfair at the moment is running very slow. It's at least 4 to 8 minutes behind real time. So the score has ended 0-2, so we've made £9.41 on the under 3.5 goals bet. We've lost £5.38 on the correct score market, which means that the profit we've made on this match is £4.03, and that is a real £4.03. I actually have the displays on here showing the returns after Betfair commission, and I recommend that you set up your Betfair screen to do the same. So £4.03 return on a £45 stake. If you remember, that's what it was at the beginning. That is a 9% return on investment, which I think is pretty good. So over an hour and a half we've made 9% on our stake, on our money. It was very easy. There were no moments when that caused us to worry that we weren't going to be successful. And this is how the vast majority of your bets will go. So I'm glad that this has been quite a lengthy video, but video 2 is the sort of meat of the system. So view it several times, get to learn how to select matches, how to apply the match selection rules. If need be, just go through a card one day, select matches, don't even necessarily bet on them, just see if your assessment that the match should have ended with one of the scores that we are looking to cover, one of the 11 scores that are covered by the Dutching bets, and obviously if all of the matches, or the vast majority of the matches, are within the do end up being profitable, then I would suggest you start actually doing real matches, putting small stakes on and seeing how you get on. And as I say, over time your experience will grow, and you'll see how easy and reliable this is as a money making technique. So thank you for watching, and I'll be back in video 3.